Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, brought to you by gamblersworld.com. Like every Thursday afternoon, I am joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. We're going to be going over two Major League Baseball games that go on Friday, June 23rd. But before we get to that, let's start with a simple hello. Doug, how are you?
Well, a simple hello right back to you, Ross. Okay, from that standpoint. So we'll keep it simple that way. The the NBA draft tonight, and what is it? Victor's odds are what, like minus 5,000 to be the number one pick. And by the way, did you if
somebody bet $1 million or $500,000 to win $14, something like that?
Right. So, okay.
Is that what you're referring to?
No, that doesn't surprise me though. Yeah. From that standpoint. But the one thing speaking of, and I'll ask you, and then I'll also ask the listeners also that are watching this video, is that did you see the thing where he was, I think, at Yankee Stadium, and then they had him holding a baseball? Did you see that picture?
No, I did not.
It's on Twitter. It's on my page if anybody wants to go look. The size of his hands, obviously we know he's 7'4". He has an 8-foot wingspan, and he's holding a baseball, and it looks like he's holding a golf ball.
Wow.
Okay. That's how, his hands are just massive. His fingers are just incredibly long. I'm not going to say it's freaky, but it's certainly unusual. But
you don't see that every day, is what you're saying.
No.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you remember that old? I can't remember who it was who fit like 7 or 8 baseballs in his hand.
Johnny Bench.
Yeah, it was on the Sports Illustrated cover, if I recall right. Yeah,
correct.
So and Johnny
was 9,
and Johnny Bench isn't 7'4". So
no,
9 baseballs. Okay, even more.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. If you don't think that's hard, folks, try to take 3 or 4 balls and get them exactly at one time. So anyway, we're going to start with our Fact or Fiction segment that we've been doing the last couple times, and hopefully you folks enjoy this segment. And again, your feedback is welcomed. I know a couple of guys reached out and said, I prefer you not talk about food and ice cream. Well, I get it, but you know what? This is a podcast, folks, and your feedback is important to us. Just as long as you understand, part of our job is to entertain as well. Not only to make you a smarter sports bettor you were yesterday, not only to make free pick winners, but also, you got to have a laugh now and then through the course of these podcasts. And that's what makes the day go by. So in any event, that's where we're at right now. But having said that, if your feedback is always welcome, whether it be something you don't like on the show, something you would suggest you want to hear or see, we'll do our best to accommodate you. Just keep it respectful, keep it nice, be nice to each other. And when I say nice to each other, I'm talking about all your subscribers out there. When you're not always going to agree in the comment section, but be respectful to each other. When you start with the name calling and stuff like that, I could tell you right now, folks, you'll get one warning. If that continues, I will just cease your ability to comment on the YouTube channel. So there you have it. I'm not trying to be demanding, folks, but we're trying to create a culture here that's good for everybody. All right, Doug, let's start with you. I got a question for you. Okay.
I'm ready.
Luis Ariza of the Miami Marlins, currently hitting .398. He's had 3 5-hit games this year. Is a flash in the pan facts or fiction?
Let's see. I would say definitely, not definitely. I would say fiction. I think this guy is having an amazing season. Most guys in the history of baseball that have, let's just say, reached this time of year, so basically roughly half the season, that have had, I'm not saying nearly 400, but even 370, even the 360 range, those guys are legitimate hitters. Okay. And that doesn't mean they're going to hit that high every single year, but I think this guy is just a natural hitter. Yes, he's absolutely locked in. I, in fact, remember the year, I remember the time, not the year, that George Brett, I think, ended up hitting .388. And he came to Milwaukee, and I specifically went to one of the games just to see him. And, the dude was just 100% locked in. Every swing was great. I never forgot that. So yeah. So it just, I think he's definitely I think he's really good. and I think that I forget exactly how you phrased the question, but I think he's going to hit well this year.
Is he a flash in a pan, fact or fiction? You said
yeah. I say I'm going to go with fiction.
Yeah, and I agree. This guy is not a flash in the pan. Now, if it was, let's say, even if he was in the league 3 or 4 years, and the best he ever hit through an entire course of a season was 260. Okay, now all of a sudden he's hitting 398 on June 22nd. I would tend to think he's got a lot more to prove to me to make sure that this isn't just a torrid hot streak somebody's on. But this guy hit over 300 the last 3 seasons for Minnesota. People don't realize that. So, yes, it's fiction for me as well, Doug. Back to you, my friend.
All right, now the Boston Celtics signed Porzingis, okay, and they gave up Marcus Smart. They're still the favorite. Betting odds are 475. Ross, fact or fiction? Do you think this makes Boston a stronger team, and then possibly that their odds might even drop further at this time?
That's a tough one, but I am going to say, if your question is, are they rephrase the question again?
Well, yeah, are they improved? Okay, by adding Porzingis and then losing Marcus Smart, and I understand there's all kinds of factors that still to come in the offseason, draft choices, excuse me, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just saying right now, okay, what your opinion is? Do their odds improve from plus 475, and is this actually a better team? Fact or fiction?
This is there. If they are a better team, I think that's fiction. I think that what you gain in Porzingis is his ability. First of all, his size. Second of all, he's not a typical big man. He can go out and shoot the 3 and do it with efficiency. Very athletic, but a guy who has shown a tendency not to stay healthy throughout the course of a season. And if that's the case, he misses 40 or 50 games. It's definitely they're not as strong or better than they were a year ago. Also, Marcus Smart, one of the best defensive players in all the NBA, and a heart and soul type of player. This guy is the heartbeat of the Boston Celtics. So I think some of those factors on Marcus Smart's side far outweighs what you gain in Porzingis, and I don't think they're better. They may even be a shade worse.
Okay, all right. See, I'm gonna disagree with you just a little bit on this, and just for these reasons, is that I think Porzingis, I think they're looking to move on from Horford. Okay, maybe not 100% move on, but his in terms of starting, or it seems like he's going to be a guy to come off the bench instead. They get some additional height with him. Okay, so with that, I think they're a little bit stronger defensively in the paint, and I think that's what was one of the things that they wanted to improve upon after this past year. I think some of the culture is going to change. But I think generally speaking, he makes them a better team. Losing Marcus Smart, there must be something that we're not seeing, Ross. That's all I can figure.
Yeah.
Whether it be in the locker room or age or something, something just not adding up. So again, today, I think it's generally they make them better, but not a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, again, Doug, we both know, and anybody who's followed sports over the years would know, when you make a trade, it's very seldom looks lopsided on the date of the trade. Right. But there's a lot of factors that have to be weighed in. Time will only tell. But I have nothing against Porzingis. I always liked him as a player. I loved his versatility. But the thing with Marcus Smart is, you improve your interior defense, like you just said, with Horford now being a backup, if indeed that's the route they go, which I think they will. They want to reduce his minutes because of his age. But you're also going to lose your defensive ability on the perimeter. And Marcus Smart was an underrated 3-point shooter as well. So we'll see. But that's a great question. And one I would love to see you folks out there chime in on. Nathan Eovaldi is a legitimate AL Cy Young candidate.
Oh, absolutely. That is completely true. Okay. Or that is a fact in this case. I mean, when you watch him pitch, he's not, at times in the past, he would kind of nibble And for whatever reason, whether it be being on Texas with Bochy as the manager and then working with the pitching coach, they have gotten him away from that. And that was especially true in Boston, where he would do that. So he would go through streaks where, he'd pitch well, but then he'd be awful, for 2 or 3 starts. So they have him, I think they have him locked in. And is he a contender for the Cy Young? Absolutely, in my opinion. What do you think, Ross?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think he's one of the top 2 candidates, as a matter of fact. The reason why I even brought it up, we discussed this the other day, and Sean Higgs asked me, name the top 5 pitchers in baseball, okay, that you think right now. And I did, and I included Nathan Eovaldi, and he sort of said, I don't know about Eovaldi. Well, the thing is, sometimes the name recognition isn't what it's all about. It's not about who's had the best career, who's got the biggest brand name. It's about who is the best pitcher now and throughout the course of the season, who is most valuable to his team most times than not. A guy who wins a Cy Young usually is up there in the MVP voting as well. I mean, there's rare exceptions to the rule, of course. But yes, I think he is a legitimate AL Cy Young candidate. And he's on a first place club, and that's certainly going to help a lot too, Doug.
Oh yeah, I mean that's all part of the package. When you go out in sometimes even in the first inning and you're ahead 3-0, or after 3 innings, after maybe you didn't have your best stuff, you just didn't quite get in a rhythm, but you're ahead 5-1. I mean, makes it a lot easier to pitch. No question about that, right?
No doubt about it.
I really like what he's doing, and again, more specifically, the aggressiveness.
Yeah, well, I mean, and if I could just add one more thing,
sure.
Whatever they're telling him to do that he wasn't doing before, and what you alluded to is he used to nibble before, and now he's more aggressive. That bodes well for confidence, right? So something that they've instilled in him has given him a lot more confidence to trust his stuff more and not be so fine with everything he throws.
Okay, all right. Now here's mine for you. This weekend, the New York Mets play Philadelphia. Okay, so here I'm going to say that it's not out yet. Okay, but I'm going to say that the line for the series is going to be Philadelphia -150. So if it's way off, so be it. This is the line I got. So I'm going to give you the pitching matchups. I'll go slow, okay, on this one, Ross. So Senga against Taiwan Walker on Friday. Carrasco against Chris Sanchez for Philadelphia. And Scherzer versus Wheeler on Sunday. So great pitching matchup on Sunday. So those are the pitching matchups. So fact or fiction, Philadelphia at -150 is a good bet to make this weekend for a series.
Fiction. I think the Mets will have an opportunity to win this series solely based. I like the way Senga's pitching of late.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly like how Scherzer rebounded from 2 tough outings where he was staked to a 4-1 and a 5-1 lead. And then he goes and throws 7 shutout innings in his last start. So in that middle game, we're talking about what was the pitching matchup in that middle game, if I could ask?
Carrasco against Christian Sanchez.
Yeah, so I would give an edge to the Mets there in the starting pitching matchup. Carrasco is one of those guys that when he's hot and he's on, he's real good. But there's very seldom any in between with him. He's either real bad or real good, especially later in his career. So I'm going to say fiction as Philadelphia being a good bet. And I am not going to say it with a lot of conviction, though, Doug, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying exactly, and I'm going to agree with you on that. I think that, to your point, you got games 1 and 3. I think the Mets have the better pitching situation. I think that Philadelphia, losing on Thursday, I think ends up being a disappointing series against Atlanta. Probably we're hoping for more. And even though the Mets are certainly not having a good season, it just seems like it kind of sets up, for me anyways, a little more favoritism towards towards the Mets to get the job done this weekend, I should.
And there we go. So we agree.
Yes, we definitely agree.
We're going to, especially when one person doesn't know what the question is going to be, sometimes there's going to be answers that leave a lot to be desired in terms of conviction or how strong we feel, because we're answering these on the fly, and we make it a habit not to let each other know what the questions are. The guy asking the question is certainly going to be prepared with his retort to whatever the reply is. So if you don't hear some conviction sometimes on these questions, folks, it's normal. I mean, just think about if you're sitting at the bar talking to your buddy and he asks you a question off the cuff, not only in the world of sports, but an opinionated question that it hinders not on fact solely, but on your opinion of what you see. What you see through your eyes aren't always what the other guy sees in his eyes. So that's the way it goes. That's sports. That's sports betting as a whole. Anyway, all right, we're going to talk 2 games today. Real good ones. The Atlanta Braves and the Cincinnati Reds will be played in Cincinnati, and Doug is going to be taking a look at the 2 best teams in the NL West. And who would have thought, Doug, on June the 22nd, that we would be referring to Arizona and San Francisco as being the 2 top teams in the division? Raise your hand if you thought that was going to occur. Now put it down, because you're a damn liar. Anyway, Doug, take it away.
Yes, and so my what I'm going to talk about just got shorter because Ross took my exact intro.
Sorry.
No, that's what's funny, So one thing I wonder a little bit about Arizona coming into this game. This will be their 3rd different city in 3 days, that they're playing in, because they had a makeup game with Washington today, which they won, by the way, 5-3. So that's just part of it. This team on the road has just been fantastic. I mean, they're averaging 5.6 runs per game, and I think they're now 26-9 on the road, and which is second only to Atlanta. From that stat, I think it's 26-11 now that I think about it.
It's 11, yes.
But yes, okay, 26-11.
It's good.
And so,
how's that?
What's that?
It's good.
Okay, yes. Yeah, it's real good. So, but they're going to face a blazing hot Giants team, on a 10-game losing streak. Now, literally, as we are doing this, the Giants are down 6-0 to San Diego, so that's probably going to end their win streak. But, their offense has been great, leading up to at least till today, averaging 7.4 runs per game. And the thing that I have found most interesting is the runs allowed. And during the streak, they've only given up 3.4 runs per game, which is nearly a run lower than what it was before the win streak started, because they were giving up 4.3 before the win streak started. So, in looking at this matchup, though, a pitching matchup, you got Logan Webb against Zach Davies. Now, I saw Logan Webb once in spring training, and he just looked really uncomfortable. And so I made a mental note of that, and that's how his season started. He gave up 4 runs in each of his first 4 starts. But since then, in his next 11, he has only given up that many runs once. So his ERA has tumbled from 5 to, almost 5 to 3.11. And in 7 starts against Arizona, Webb's ERA is 2.41. Zach Davies, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not a fan. He is a real wild card. He can give you 5 or 6 innings, give up 1 or 2 runs, look pretty good, but it's just as likely he's going to give up 6 runs and be gone in the 3rd inning. So his ERA is over 7 on the season. Yes, it's better on the road at 2.31, but one of those starts came against Washington. I'm tossing that one out from that standpoint. San Francisco is listed as about a 165 favorite. They have won 15 of 19 at home against Arizona. And Ross, though the money line is a touch high, I'm looking at the Giants, who are 11-2 this season against teams with a winning percentage between 54 and 62%. I think they're going to knock Davies around, and maybe a run line play. We'll see what the number is on that one. But for the free pick video, I'm going San Francisco to get the job done against the D-backs.
All right, San Francisco minus 165 over the Arizona D-backs. Doug brings up some interesting points. Number one, I had in my notes, Zach Davies, definitely the weak link of the Arizona rotation, and Doug touched upon that, so I won't belabor that point even further. The one point that people need to understand, 3 different cities in 3 different days. It's not like yes, they had a makeup game yesterday on the road, today or whatever, and now they're playing in San Francisco tonight. The three different cities were all road games. It's not like the first of the three was the end of a homestand. They not only played in three different cities in 3 days, all on the road. So you cannot ignore that fact. And and another point that Doug brings up in terms of Brandon Webb and how he started the season. I think too many people out there, and I had a talk with my friend who's been gambling on sports since we were both young, a very good friend of mine, and he has a tendency to try to do the 2-minute handicap when he looks at a baseball game. And I said, Louis, you can't look at just the pitcher's overall statistics throughout the year. Some of that can be very deceiving. And in this particular instance, is a prime example and a textbook example at that, is if you look at Brandon Webb's overall numbers, okay, they're not going to wow you. And they're uninspiring. But if you look at how he's done after the last four, or after the first 4 starts of the season, he's only given up 4 earned runs once. And I would venture to say his ERA is below 3 during that course of time. I don't know that, but I'm taking an educated guess because I'm pretty good at math, and that would make sense. So, folks, just don't look at the big picture when it comes to baseball handicapping. You have to condense it sometime. You know what I mean? It's like looking at a team's overall record. Cincinnati is only 35-30. What's everybody making a big deal about? Well, they won 11 in a row. So at one point of the season, they were 6 games below 500 before this all started. So that's my point, Doug. Anything you want to touch upon in terms of that?
No, I'd say I like their situation here. I think they hit for power too, and that's one of the things. And so if Davey starts walking guys, gets into trouble, okay. I mean, all of a sudden it could, they could put a 5 spot up real quick, okay, and then that transfers all the pressure to Arizona to have to hit, and they can hit, and they have proven they can hit on the road. Like I said, averaging 5.6 runs per game on the road, but I don't think they're going to get that against Logan Webb in this case.
And another point to be made, Doug, is if you look at San Francisco's bullpen, ERA, and WHIP throughout the course of the year, it's not indicative of how good they've been over the last couple of weeks. So that's another point. Doug started it. I just more or less brought it to everybody's attention. But why I brought it to your attention is because of the analysis that Doug gave on that game, and that shows you how good his analysis is. All right, I'm going to look at Atlanta and Cincinnati, 2 red-hot teams, Doug. Atlanta has now won 8 in a row after beating Philadelphia this afternoon 5-1. And Cincinnati has won 11 in a row. You know what shocks the heck out of me, Doug, is the Reds have only won 12 games in a row once, and that was in 1957. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. The Johnny Bench and Joe Morgan and Dave Concepcion and those teams never won 12 in a row? Wow. Good for Cincinnati baseball. Good for the Cincinnati fans. You know what I mean? They've suffered a lot over the years, and now they got something to beat on their chest about. Let's not ordain them as the division champ yet. Let's not ordain them as even a playoff team yet. But right now they're playing good baseball. And if you look inside the numbers with Cincinnati, it goes to show you don't have to be a power-laden team to be successful. Because as much as Cincinnati hit a lot of home runs in recent years, they haven't this year. Matter of fact, they're one of the lowest in baseball, yet they're winning. And that goes to show you, get them over, get them on, get them in. All right, so let's get to the specifics. Cincinnati, like I said, 11-0. They're going to be playing with a day of rest. They had today off, and they'll go into tomorrow. And they're coming off a 3-game homestand. Another thing, not only playing with a day of rest, but coming off a homestand and then playing at home, Doug. You know what I mean? They're not using their off day to travel. The other part of the equation here is Atlanta. They knocked off Philly today, so they're not going to be playing with any rest. Ordinarily, I would put a lot of stock in that to start with. But because of both teams' rosters and where they're at right now, it takes less emphasis for me because we're talking about the Atlanta Braves. So keep that in mind. But ordinarily, when you're looking at a game like this is key points. that you have to handicap when you're looking at a Major League Baseball game. All right, Atlanta's A.J. Smith Schauser. It sounds like a law firm. 2 starts this year with a 2.45 ERA and a 1.09 WHIP, and he went 11 innings pitched in those 2 starts. Not bad, and he can depend on an Atlanta bullpen, which I'm assuming they had a good day again today, because their bullpen over the last 7 going into today had a 1.75 ERA and a 1.13 WHIP. That will close down a lot of games and limit the team's offense in epic proportions. Luke Weaver, his last 3 starts, he's been absolutely horrible for Cincinnati. He's been bailed out because the Cincinnati Reds have scored a lot of runs for him. As a matter of fact, they've won all 3 of those last 3 starts, even though Weaver has a 10.12 ERA and a 2.17 WHIP over that time. Not going to get that lucky all the time, folks. Usually when you have a guy with that type of performance line over a 3-game period, it's disaster waiting to happen if it hasn't happened already. And Atlanta this year, when facing teams that allow 4.5 runs or more per game, like the Cincinnati Reds do, they're 26-7 this year. And by the way, Cincinnati, right now we're looking at Atlanta is a -150 money line favorite. Keep in mind, I'm anticipating we're going to see a lot of Cincinnati action here. Why I say that is because we got a team that's won 11 in a row. Yes, Atlanta's won 8 in a row, but it's an enticing price for an underdog. So if indeed, right now they're plus 130, but if they come down to 125 or below, keep in mind, Cincinnati's only gone 1-7 this year in their last 8 at home when the money line is plus 125 to minus 125 for them. So make a long story short, I'm going to take Atlanta. And I'm going to stretch the limit here. Doug, you know me. I don't usually like to go minus 140. In this particular instance, I'm not willing to lay to 1.5 either because we're talking about 2 red-hot teams. I'm going to go Atlanta minus 150 over the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, they say miracles never happen. Well, I think one just did, friends. Okay, right there. Ross taking a minus 150 favorite. Okay, on the road, no less.
You know me.
Goodness.
You know me too well, my friend.
I just, I got to check my heart here. I got to get the pump put in here.
Yeah.
But and I agree with you. I think that's, Cincinnati's hot. They're playing fantastic baseball, but Luke Weaver, I mean, he's worse than Davies. Okay, from that standpoint. So if that's the case, and against a lineup as potent as Atlanta's is on a continual basis, night after night after night, they could really put Cincinnati in a hole right away on this one, and that would not surprise me one single bit. If we're talking about 6-1, 6-2 after 5 innings. So yeah, I definitely I'm with you on Atlanta, and I think that's going to be a pretty comfortable win too at the same time.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up about Atlanta with the weapons they have offensively. I had their last 7 games isolated here to look at what they've done offensively, because when I prepped for this video, they were still in progress against Philadelphia today. So the first 7 games of this 8-game win streak, the Braves averaged 8.6 runs per game. Their OBP is 405. That's your on-base percentage as a team. Their team batting average was 329. And get this, Doug, they hit 19 home runs in those 7 games. So that goes hand in hand with what you said about their offensive firepower. So there you have it, folks. I'm going with the Atlanta Braves minus 150 at Cincinnati. Here's my recommendation. Wait till tomorrow morning because I'm taping tonight on Thursday. And if you are watching on Friday, then if you look at the line and you see Atlanta going up to 155, 160, I wouldn't hesitate to use the run line as a small play. And if they go below 150, I like them even more. And I anticipate that might be the case only because we're talking about a team playing at home with an 11-game win streak. So usually I don't want to buck a team that's hot, but they're playing another team that's hot. And when it comes down to it, Doug, you look on paper, Atlanta's unequivocally the better team. Give Cincinnati a lot of credit for what they're doing right now. And I'm glad for their fan base. Anyway, Doug, tell the folks what you may have coming up this week at DocSports.com and how you may have been doing of late.
Yes, so baseball has been good. I got had a big play yesterday on the Angels who were shut out 2 days in a row. But you know what? And they had against the Dodgers bullpen, no less. So that was interesting. But around that, I won the other 2 games that I had yesterday. That was good. Have had a couple of, as I mentioned the other day, I've had a couple of sweeps recently in various days. So that's been excellent. So I definitely got some action this weekend. MLB props. Okay, I do it probably 5 days a week. Took 2 of them yesterday. I've hit 62.5% of my most recent props. So that's been strong. Again, USFL action. There's 2 games this weekend. For sure, I'm dialed into one. I got another one the other one I'm looking at. 5-0 run on those. And then Canadian football, 5-1 run, 2-0 so far this year, Ross. So lots of opportunity and some things that, again, like Ross has mentioned, don't have to watch it to win. No. All you got to do is just go over to Doc Sports, look at my page, see what I got going, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, it's the end of the day, folks. If you invest in stocks, do you watch the progression all night long? No, you don't. You wake up in the morning, you check your stocks once a day. Why can't you do the same thing in sports betting? You know, and I can guarantee you that there's a chance that by looking at your sports bets every day when you're getting it from an individual like Doug, you're going to do a hell of a lot better than you would if you invest in a stock and you could lose your behind overnight. That's not going to be the case in a one-day situation. So again, point well taken. You can find me at rbwins.com. That's rossbenjaminsports.com. Modest 4-2 run since Saturday in Major League Baseball, 43-33 in all sports over over that run. I'm not sure how far that goes back. It's probably around 6 weeks. So in Dime Betters over that course of time has made a profit of over $7,100. So nothing wrong with that. That's rbwins.com.